mysterious music for today's show. We're solving 5 of the biggest fantasy football mysteries for 2025. Welcome, everybody. It is Monday, April 7th. Adam Azer here with Dave Richard and Heath Cummings. Jamie is somewhere watching a basketball game tonight. Not really a big deal. But he's at the national championship game. That's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Schaefer's not. He's backstage. Everybody's pumped for the Gators. Anyway, so we got these big mysteries. Heath said he doesn't know what I sent the notes, but Heath hadn't taken a look. He said, I'm just going to guess what they are. Would you like to know last year's mysteries?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll set the table for me.
So here are last year's biggest mysteries. Can we trust older quarterbacks coming off torn Achilles?
No.
How high will the rookie wide receivers get drafted? Remember, we had these big 3 that were going to be top 10 picks.
Yeah, they got drafted pretty high.
Will a rookie running back finish top 12?
No, and we were right on that one.
Will the quarterback position look like it did in 2023? And in 2023, we only had one quarterback averaging more than 24.2 fantasy points per game, and then it was kind of evenly distributed. So the question was, would it be like that again?
And it wasn't. It was better.
Yeah, it was a little bit more elite. And then number 5 was, were Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb's second halves legit? All right, so how you feeling, Heath? You feel ready to guess?
I feeling very bad. I had some more football related mysteries that I was wanting to guess. So I'm going to put those on the back burner for now. And
it's really not that similar to 2024. I'm just going to give you that.
Okay, because I was going to go with something along the lines of who will be the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, or will Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields be good enough to keep their jobs?
Those are not on there. Those are good mysteries, though.
Will Ashton Jeanty be a first-round pick as a rookie?
That's one.
One of them is, will Ashton Jeanty's rookie season be more like Saquon Barkley's or Bijan Robinson's? So we have
he's got one. How many more is he going to get, Adam? I think he gets at least one more on the list.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Will Marvin Harrison Jr. ever be as good as we thought he was going to be?
No,
that was one of mine that I suggested to Adam.
Yeah, I think I'm already done.
All right, we got 5 mysteries today. Which new coach or coordinator will have the biggest impact? Can we trust old running backs, or was last season a fluke?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Is Ashton Jeanty's rookie season going to look more like Saquon Barkley's or Bijan Robinson's? Can Patrick Mahomes be elite again after 2 straight disappointing seasons?
Heath, of all the mysteries, that's one that was right in your wheelhouse. And
I had a Chiefs related mystery, but I just thought it was going to be, will Rashee Rice or Xavier Worthy be the number 1 wide receiver?
You know, it's crazy. That whole offense is actually a mystery at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Travis Kelce completely washed?
Is there a tight end outside the top 3, assuming George Kittle is 3rd, that even has a chance to be elite? So I'm looking forward to that one. All right. Favorite TV show involving mysteries, guys? What do you think?
Only Murders in the Building has been amusing. That's a new one.
Always loved Criminal Minds.
All right. I'm just going to say Scooby-Doo. We have a team named Tuesday from Jacob. April Bowers bring Zay flowers.
I like
That's a good one.
It's good. And it's seasonal. I have some listening to do when I'm in the car today. FFT Dynasty running back preview with Jacob Gibbs and Matt Waldman. Looking forward to watching. I'm going to listen to that one. I did watch a bit of it, and Matt Waldman doesn't look anything like I thought he would. Kind of thought he'd look like Heath, and he doesn't. So his voice and Heath's body make sense together.
That's weird. I'm halfway through the episode. I can't get over the detail that Matt Waldman goes into with every single. I don't know how he has the time to do this on top of like the real life work that he has. He's unbelievably meticulous, and I love that about him. And so I was so excited to see that episode show up. And halfway through, and there's even like this really interesting discussion. It's like a stats versus film fight between Jacob and Matt over a prospect that is pretty popular. So I think you'll really learn a lot and enjoy that episode quite a bit. Highly recommended for all of our Dynasty leaguers.
It's the perfect it was a fantastic combination, really. Like Matt Waldman helped bring me into the industry, and I was here for the Jacob's entry into the industry. Gibbs is the true media guru, and Waldman's been doing the film thing for 20 years now.
Yeah.
Jacob's been watching a lot of film too, and he's posting a lot of clips on Twitter. You should definitely be following him. But let's get it to our show here. The news and notes. Miami left tackle Teron Armstead retired. 2 straight seasons, the Dolphins have had the lowest average time to throw in the NFL.
Well,
they get the ball super quick.
That's by design.
Yeah, it helps negate what could be a bad offensive line. But with Armstead on the field in 2024, the Dolphins allowed a 25.8% pressure rate. So that's 26% of their dropbacks, there was pressure with Armstead on the field. With him off the field, 33.2% pressure rate. So it's not good. Dallas acquired Joe Milton and a 7th-round pick from the Patriots for a 5th-round pick. And Dak Prescott recovering from a torn hamstring. He should be fine. But Heath, any thoughts on Joe Milton? Oh, I got you mid-beverage there. Any thoughts on Milton going to the Cowboys?
This is less than they paid for Trey Lance, right?
Yeah, and Jonathan Mingo.
But you see what they're up to now is they're trying to find some sort of lightning in a bottle with a quarterback that's got some upside and they can get on the cheap while they're paying Dak Prescott an exorbitant amount of money given his age and wear and tear. I thought it was funny that this happened right after we were done talking about Joe Milton on our last podcast, Adam. We'll see what happens, but my guess is that he got traded for what's a backup deal. He's going to be a backup that the Cowboys are going to try and develop.
Dave said one particular word there in regards to what the Cowboys are trying to do that I thought was key.
Try?
No.
Fail.
Cheap.
Oh, okay. The Cardinals signed Trey McBride is his name, to a 4-year, $76 million deal, $43 million guaranteed. The Raiders signed Geno Smith to a 2-year, $85.5 million extension. They also signed Trey Lance. Now, the Geno Smith deal, it doesn't really give him a lot more job security. It's a 2-year extension, so that 3 years from now, that money's not guaranteed. He has 2 years of guaranteed money remaining on his contract, but from what I read, it's not that much guaranteed money next year. So it could end up being a 1-year deal, really, for Geno Smith, from what I understand. Some NFL draft stuff. Shadur Sanders and the Tennessee Titans have the number 1 pick. They canceled their private workout. That was after his pro day. So either they saw enough or they're going to draft Cam Ward, which is what everybody thinks. Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe is going to attend the NFL draft, which I thought was interesting. That news from The Athletic. And Julio Jones retired. And if you're young and you don't really remember the prime of Julio Jones, which wasn't that long ago, but just in case there's some of you, he was unbelievable. He unfortunately didn't score that many touchdowns in his career, but from a yardage standpoint, few, if any, were better than Julio Jones.
Someone in the comments post a link to a YouTube highlight reel of Julio Jones, please.
Oh, unbelievable. I think I read he had the most 250-yard games. He had 3 of them. I want to double check on that, but Julio Jones was absolutely incredible. All right, let's get to our mysteries. And we start with mystery number 1. Which new coach, head coach, or offensive coordinator will have the biggest impact? And some of the ones we're looking at: Ben Johnson going to the Bears, John Morton replacing Ben Johnson. He is a guy who worked with Dan Campbell in 2016 with the Saints, in 2022 with the Lions. He's coming over from the Broncos organization, and now he's the offensive coordinator for the Lions. Liam Cohen to the Jaguars from the Bucs. Clint Kubiak, the new offensive coordinator for Seattle. Brian Schottenheimer being elevated from offensive coordinator to head coach for Dallas. Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly to the Raiders. Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels to the Patriots. This one we're probably not going to talk much about, but Tommy Rees, offensive coordinator now for the Cleveland Browns. He was a passing game specialist in 2024. He's been an offensive coordinator in college. Nick Caley, the Rams passing game coordinator, now the new offensive coordinator for the Texans. Kellen Moore being hired to coach the Saints. And Aaron Glenn bringing in Tanner Engstrand from Detroit as the new head coach and coordinator for the Jets. Heath, which coaches will have the biggest impact?
Optimistically, it's Ben Johnson. Pessimistically, it's the guy replacing Ben Johnson.
What do you mean by that? You think he could be bad for the Lions?
I think not having Ben Johnson could be bad for the Lions. I think when you have an offense like Detroit's that's been so otherworldly good for the last couple of years in terms of both scoring touchdowns and offensive efficiency, and there's a change at offensive coordinator, and particularly when it's not a guy who was under Ben Johnson, but just a guy that's coming in from the Broncos, I think it's really like it would be hard to believe that everything's going to be exactly the same. And it's almost impossible to believe that things are going to be better. So we're probably going to be a little bit worse. Now, I think we all hope that it's like a 2 to 3% downgrade, and it's not that big a deal. But I think we could see a decrease in Jared Goff's passing efficiency. I think we could see a decrease in Lions' total touchdowns. And that probably worries me the most for guys like Laporta and David Montgomery, whose games and fantasy production have been so heavily reliant on scoring touchdowns.
Oh boy, we are going to really put a lot of stock, a lot of faith into the Bears offense with how we draft DJ Moore and Roma Dunze. Not so much Caleb Williams, but and we'll see if they draft a running back or whatever. But those guys, they're especially Moore, going to be pretty pricey investments. Even if Ben Johnson doesn't work his magic, or let's just say even if Caleb Williams doesn't take the next step, does the absence of Keenan Allen just kind of make Moore and Odunze fairly safe picks? They're just going to dominate targets.
I don't want to lose sight of, and like this isn't a big deal, but I don't want to lose sight of Cole Kmet at tight end. We know the role that Sam Laporta played in Detroit with Ben Johnson. I don't want to rule out somebody that the Bears draft coming in and taking some work away. There could be a target crunch, and it's just one of those things that does worry me a little bit. The work that I want to do is who's most likely to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. And that's a guy that's going to get 8+ targets per game. That's somebody that it's basically going to be, all right, it's third down or it's late in the game. We need somebody who can make a big play. Who's going to get that ball? And everybody that's watching and listening right now is assuming that it's going to be DJ Moore, and why wouldn't it be? And so that's what keeps me a little concerned about Odunze ascending to being – can he do what Jameson Williams did last year? I don't even think he's the same type of receiver. He's kind of close to it, but not the same type of guy. There will be a third target getter there that will be – I can't say consistently involved, Adam, but someone who can throw a wrench into the upside of anybody in a given week, and maybe into the upside of Odunze over the course of the season. For now, that's Cole Kmet.
I want to just point out that I think personally that this is a really good year of new head coaches and offensive coordinators. You know, you look at Harbaugh and Roman coming into the Chargers last year, and I think I feel the same way about what's going on with the Patriots and the Raiders. You've got proven winners taking over these teams, and Josh McDaniels has a great track record. And even if you take out the Tom Brady years, the first year of Mac Jones, they were a top 10 scoring offense. They were 8th in points per game, 11th in yards per play. They did not have a great roster. And then they sunk after that when he left and went to the Raiders. And then in his first year with the Raiders, they were 12th in points per game. They were 8th in yards per play. His second year with the Raiders was a disaster. But as a head coach, he has failed. As an offensive coordinator, McDaniels has a great track record. Chip Kelly has a great track record. In 3 of 4 seasons, he had a really good offense with the Eagles. And then he took over the 49ers. He took over a team that was last in the NFL in scoring the year before, and then they were 27th. He wasn't really that great. But, I mean, you've got professionals, you've got experience, you've got winners. I think it's great. And then you got Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen. I'm hoping he can work his magic because there's a lot of talent in Jacksonville. I don't know. I just look at the landscape, and I see potential for a lot of improvement here with these hires.
I think you picked the right ones to make that call with. If I were to focus on the negative a little bit, there are 5 new play callers that are apparently going to try and work from their predecessor's playbook.
All right, let me break in here with a quick commercial break and a little tease there. Dave's got 5 that he's maybe a little concerned about, and we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Go on, sir.
So the one that I'm least concerned about is Kevin Patullo in Philadelphia. He's been with the Eagles for a while. I kind of get the sense that he's been sort of a right-hand man to Nick Sirianni, and it'll be a combination of like what Philadelphia wants to do, which is run the ball, be physical, and then add in maybe elements of what Kellen Moore brought to that passing game last year. So I'm not too worried about that one. I'm not terribly worried about Josh Grizzard in Tampa either. I know it's their third play caller in as many years, but again, somebody who's been around with Tampa for at least a little bit and knows that offense and should be able to work from the Liam Cohen playbook, which was kind of based off of a little bit of the Dave Canales playbook. So I just think that type of consistency isn't necessarily a bad thing. The ones that do worry me, Schottenheimer in Dallas, on top of all the issues that Dallas has personnel-wise, I don't know how much he's going to start rewriting what Mike McCarthy had. I know that in Detroit, John Morton is not going to start rewriting what Ben Johnson had. But I did read that Morton and Dan Campbell kind of agreed that they want the offense to just be as comfortable as possible for Jared Goff. They don't want to change all the terminology around for him. That makes sense. But it's a different brain in that playbook. And it's somebody in John Morton, his first time being a play caller. It was with the Jets. It didn't go very well, but very familiar with what Dan Campbell's looking for. And then the last one, Nick Caley in Houston, kind of a wild card. Not sure what to expect there. Not sure how much of the playbook he's keeping from the Texans and their offense from when Slowick was there. I just think that anytime you've got a new play caller, especially in the case of a first-time play caller, taking over somebody else's playbook, it gets a little bit messy. And I would be a little bit nervous about, a tiny bit nervous about all five, but especially nervous about Houston, Detroit, and Dallas.
Okay.
I'm excited about New Orleans, by the way. I don't know how much you talked about Kellen Moore.
No, one thing I want to bring up about Kellen Moore, we'll talk about with Kamara. His teams have never ranked higher than 19th in running back target rate, which is interesting. But you're excited.
He had some good pass catching running backs along the way, so a little concerning.
Yeah, Eckler. Yeah,
right.
At least 1 year. Okay. I think we should move on. We've been on that topic for a while. Let's go to our second topic here. Can we trust old running backs, or was last season a fluke? Heath, Derrick Henry at age 30 last year. Obviously, everybody just add 1 year because they're a year older. Age 30, Derrick Henry was RB3 per game in PPR. Alvin Kamara, James Conner, and Aaron Jones, they were all 29 last year. Kamara was RB5 per game. Conner, RB15 per game, and he was even better than that if you take away 2 games he left early. Aaron Jones, RB19 per game. He left 1 game early. Can we trust old running backs, or was last season a fluke? And also, I guess maybe you can, I don't know if you want to talk about McCaffrey, Barkley's 28, whatever it is, Mixon.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to make the bust case for Derrick Henry again, but I do think like all those names you said, and probably Barkley too, I'm going to have ranked lower than what they did last year. And so if people are going to draft them close to where they finished last year, I'm probably not going to end up with any of them again. As a rule, when we have these trends that span years or decades in the NFL and we have one odd year that stands out, I think there's 2 ways that you can take that. One, we have an incredible group of aging running backs that have been fantastic throughout their career, and they're continuing to be fantastic. But it's probably not indicative that the next group that moves from 28 to 29 to 30 are going to do the same thing. And Father Time is still undefeated. At some point, Derrick Henry is going to have a fall off. And just everybody's tired of predicting it at this point.
I gotta call out Father Time here. I think we give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because when is he actually playing, right? Was he playing against Derrick Henry last year? Because if he was, he lost. I don't know if he's undefeated. You can't, it's not fair. He plays by a different set of rules where eventually, sure, he's going to win. But, like, when are we?
That's kind of the point, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point. So
in this particular case, Father Time might not win until like 2031. Like Derrick
I
Henry
will say, if
that unique of a running back, and usually it's the unique guys that can keep father time. They can stiff arm him a little bit, keep him from overcoming eventually.
we saw it with Tom Brady. We're seeing it in like the sport that's currently happening right now in basketball with LeBron James. He's doing things. It's just different.
Yeah.
So there are guys like that. I don't think there are 6 running backs in the NFL right now that are just different, that are all going to just continue being fine. I do think there's pretty strong evidence that throughout history, sports medicine gets a little bit better. The age curve gets pushed back a little bit further. But I just do my projections for the most part without thinking about age, except for the fact that I don't project a bounce back year for a guy who's old. So we've talked about this with wide receivers before. You have a down efficiency year at 30 years old. I'm not going to expect you to turn back into your 28-year-old self. But for the guys that didn't really show any sign of decline, I'm going to rank them a little bit lower than where they are in the projections, because I do think there's an increased risk of injury. There's an increased risk of that age finally catching up with them, but I'm not just going to totally fade them.
If we just talk about those 5 guys, I guess it's 4.
Yep.
Yeah. Henry, Kamara, Connor, Jones. They're all 29 or older last year. They're all going to be 30 or older this year. Is there one that you think that you like at ADP, one that you're fading at ADP? Derrick Henry, I assume will be a first or early second round pick. Alvin Kamara, I don't know, round 3 or 4. And then James Conner and Aaron Jones probably in the same range, round 5-ish or so.
Connor would be one for me. Talked about him last week, how he's one of those RB2s that you settle for in that round 5-6 range.
I'm fine with Kamara in round 4 in full PPR.
Yeah, I mean, I've always made this case. Like, Kamara's been kind of a bad-ish or unimpressive running back 4 straight years, and he's always great for fantasy.
So those catches, man. And by the way, like I just did the homework on this. You're right about Kellen Moore not like heavily targeting running backs a lot out of the backfield. I think his high is 18.5% of a running back target share with Dallas in 2021. But you tell me, Dallas in 2021, the running backs averaged 6.9 targets per game, 6.9 again in 2020. Chargers 2023, Eckler wasn't himself. That was when his decline started. The Chargers overall averaged 5.5 targets per game, 5.8 for the Cowboys in 2019. It's really just 2022 in Dallas and Philly last year and Philadelphia. They just don't throw to their running backs that much. I think that Kellen Moore can get 5+ targets per game to Alvin Kamara, if not 6, provided that Kamara stays healthy, doesn't have to share that much. I'd still be a little optimistic as far as that goes with Kellen Moore there.
I would guess this is also the most, it's clearly the worst quarterback that Kellen Moore's had, except for one of the years that Dak was hurt. He went from Dak to Justin Herbert to Jalen Hurts to now an aging Derek Carr. So that is kind of swings 2 ways for me. I think it's more likely that Derek Carr is going to target his running backs than Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. And also, I'm a little bit concerned that Kellen Moore will have a hugely positive impact because he doesn't have the same talent on offense that he's used to.
It's true.
Well, some would say that Olave and Kamara he doesn't have the quarterback talent, though. I think is the point.
But you're going from A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley to those guys.
Yeah, right? But you're also going
or Keenan Allen. I think a lot of people probably think at this stage of their careers, Chris Olave is better than Keenan Allen.
Yeah,
but
right. Not the 2 years ago, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was great. Eckler. Right. So Eckler, that 1 year that Moore was in with the Chargers, 2023, Eckler was on pace for 90 targets. He was only on pace for 62 catches. That was his worst catch rate by far of his career, basically. But 90 targets. Kamara last year was on pace for 110 targets, I think. So honestly, even if he's at 90 targets, I think it's probably still valuable 4th round pick, something like that. All right, let's go to our next one. Is Ashton Jeanty's rookie season going to look more like Saquon Barkley's rookie season or Bijan Robinson's rookie season? Barkley in 2018 was the number 1 running back in PPR, number 2 per game, a little bit worse in non-PPR, but still elite. Bijan, on the other hand, finished as a top 10 running back, but on a per game basis, he was 17th in non-PPR, 15th in full PPR. Remember, he did have that one game with the migraines. So without that, I don't know, maybe he was something like RB13, whatever, but he was a bit of a bust. Is Jeanty's rookie season going to look more like Barkley's or Bijan's, Dave?
I think he's got a better shot to look like Barkley than Bijan. I think he's one of the most NFL-ready prospects in the draft. Obviously, at running back, he'll start week 1, but I think he's very clean as far as prospects go in a down year of the draft class. He's powerful. He's got unreal contact balance. He's got great speed. The better his offensive line is, obviously, the better that he'll be able to do. I also think that he's got untapped potential as a pass catcher. Listen to this. So last year, not a lot of catches for him. The year before, he had over 40 catches. And in high school, his first year playing high school football in America, it was in Dallas. He was at Lone Star High School. He was all district first team at wide receiver. They couldn't use him at running back because they had a log jam at running back. They used him at running back the year after, but he's clean. When you watch his targets, he's not bobbling the ball. He can catch smoothly, brings the ball in, moves upfield. Look at me. I'm sounding like Matt Waldman just a little bit. I think that there is upside for him to be impactful in PPR on top of non-PPR. And it wouldn't surprise me if he led the league in yards from scrimmage this year, but I'm almost certain it'll happen at least once in the next 4 years. And as long as he's on a team where we really like the offensive environment, he should be great for fantasy. There's a chance he goes in round 1 in redraft leagues this year.
If he's a top 10 pick, that's pretty much my expectation.
Top 10 pick in the NFL draft, you expect?
I think if he's a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, he'll be a top 12 pick. I think the only thing I really think, I think if you remember back to that Bijan year, like Arthur Smith was the big problem, right? There was too many Tyler Algier carries inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah. Well, you got 16. You take out the migraine game, 16.9 touches per game for Bijan, whereas Barkley had 22 touches per game. Barkley had 91 catches that year. 16.9 touches per game is really not that bad. I mean, it's not first round pick worthy for sure in fantasy. But it's just only 4 touchdowns. Like, he wasn't getting the goal line work. It was stupid. It was we were all sitting there like, what? Yeah. Like Arthur Smith problem. Yeah. But turn him loose. And I think hopefully he gets to 40 catches, but Barkley and Henry certainly proved that you don't need 40 catches to be elite just last season.
Right. You need a lot of touchdowns, and he can do that.
I think it'll be closer to Barkley. We think it'll be closer to Barkley than Robinson, but I don't think it'll be as good as Barkley's personally, because I don't think the catches will be close.
It really depends on whether you're talking about Barkley's at RB2 that year.
2 per game, 1 overall. Yeah.
And are you talking about Bijan's RB20 season or Bijan without the migraine, so he's RB12, 13? Because if you're talking about the difference between 1, 2, or 12, 13, then I'd probably set the over/under right in the middle. Like RB 6.5 sounds good.
Let me do points per game then. Barkley was at 24 points per game. Still his best season was his rookie season in terms of PPR points per game. Bijan was at 14.8. Well, let's take away the 1 game. Maybe you add another point there. Let's call it 16. 16 points per game for Bijan, 24 points per game for Barkley. We got to go in the middle. You think we'll get to 20?
I'd probably set the over/under at 17.5.
17.5. Not.
H-Man had 17.6. Jonathan Taylor had 17.5 last year. He scored 12 touchdowns.
17.5 would not quite be first round value, most likely. That feels a little bit more like mid to late second round value. To me, anyway. But all right, 17.5 is Heath's over under. Just curious. You know what, Thomas, you want to do a YouTube poll while we have some time left? See what the audience thinks. 17.5 PPR fantasy points per game for Ashton Jeanty. And no, I'm not going to give you a destination. Just going to have to guess. Let's get to topic number 4. Can Patrick Mahomes be elite again after 2 straight disappointing seasons? Dave, you're first up.
We saw it in the last 3 games when Xavier Worthy got hot. Worthy averaged 21 PPR points per game. Mahomes averaged 25.8 fantasy points per game. I would consider that elite. I would also consider that the ceiling for Patrick Mahomes. We know what the floor is. We've seen it now each of the last 2 seasons. Mahomes needed that 3-game stretch to get to 20.9 fantasy points per game in 2024. In 2023, he had the exact same number. I don't recall, Heath, did he have a big 3-game stretch at the end of the regular season to help him get there?
Starting in late 2023 and including the playoffs, he had a 19-game stretch where he scored more than 21 fantasy points twice. Right. That was late 2023 through that Super Bowl run and through the first half of 2024. 19 games, he scored more than 21 fantasy points in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues twice. Then he did it in 7 of his last 13 games in 2024 and through the playoffs.
I'd like to see his receiving core be healthy and available to begin the year. I'd like that offensive line to at least resemble what it looked like at the beginning of last season. And if those 2 things happen, combined with the big question mark that they've got at running back, then I think we could be cautiously optimistic that Mahomes deserves to be the QB6. Does he have the same type of upside as Hurts, Burrow, and then the big 3, Josh Allen, Lamar, Jaden Daniels? I would say no to that. But if we're assuming that everything's good in Kansas City, Mahomes can still be that QB6, and you'll draft him accordingly.
So words matter, Adam. So the question was, can he?
Yeah.
Or will he? Because can he? I would say absolutely yes. Like you give Patrick Mahomes a full season with a healthy Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Marquise Brown as his top 3 wide receivers, with Travis Kelce just cleaning up underneath, and maybe the defense takes a step back. Yes, I absolutely believe that Patrick Mahomes can still be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy.
Okay. I'm going to show you why I think he also can after this commercial break. We'll be right back with some fun screenshots after this. All right, Patrick Mahomes, try to say what's gone on the last 2 years. Because the last 2 years, he's basically been QB 11 per game. And one of the things that stands out is the lack of explosive plays. In terms of, let's say, touchdown passes of 20 or more yards, he has 7 of those in the last 2 seasons combined.
Wow.
In his prime, he was double digits with Tyreek Hill. So, his first 3 seasons as a starter, 15 touchdown passes of 20 or more yards in all 3 seasons. The last 2 years, 7 combined. So we need that. Let's take a look at Xavier Worthy's role in this. On pass attempts of 20 or more air yards to Xavier Worthy, Patrick Mahomes completed 3 of 17 passes for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also a couple of interceptions, I believe. I've got 5 screenshots here. I want to show you some plays. Thomas, let's bring up the first one. This is Xavier Worthy. This is an incomplete pass. Okay, all of these are incomplete passes. He is wide open on this play. Let's go to our next one.
Not only that, but the safety's back was turned to him on that play.
This is an incomplete pass. I know if you're not watching, if you want to see it, youtube.com/fantasyfootball today. But this is an incomplete pass to a wide open Xavier Worthy. It's just bad footwork on both of those 2 plays of him not getting his feet in bounds. Let's go to our next one here. They're not as bad. He's got a step here. This is a tough play to make. But this is the kind of play that you would expect occasionally. Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, they turned that into a huge play. This was an incomplete pass. Next up, he's got a step. I think you can't see, it's a little dark, but Patrick Mahomes is getting hit as he throws. This is an incomplete pass, but Xavier Worthy again showing he can get behind defensive backs. All right, and we got one more here where he has a step and a half on a defensive back. He is wide open. You expect this play up the sideline to be a big play. This was an incomplete pass.
You needed 5 screenshots to tell us that Xavier Worthy is fast?
Not just that, but they left a lot of points off the board. They left a lot of points on the field. Okay, they missed it makes me this of all the things I watched this weekend. These plays of Xavier Worthy getting open and some of them inexcusably not coming down with catches. I think that's going to get fixed in year 2. I think he's going to bring an element to this offense that we haven't seen since Tyreek Hill. I'm very optimistic about Worthy, and I think it's going to really pull up Patrick Mahomes' production too.
At least 3 of those, if memory serves correct, and I could just like you transported me back in time, Adam, with each of those screenshots. There was one of them I didn't remember. But I think at least, if I'm remembering right, at least 3 of those, Xavier Worthy did catch the ball. Yep. He just had a foot out of bounds.
Certainly 2, maybe 3. I think that last one.
I think the last one, didn't he like catch it like the 2-yard line and with a foot out of bounds?
Yeah, I think so. I think that one was kind of on Mahomes, but maybe half on Mahomes. The other ones were all on Worthy. Those other 2 were all on Worthy. But yeah, like he's gonna get better at that. You have to almost try to be out of bounds on those first 2. So I think Worthy is if he has a big second season, I mean, it's just gonna add these big strikes to the Chiefs offense that they just haven't had in the last 2 years.
I do think that Rice is going to be at least partially key to that, because if you have like Rice and what he does underneath is so special. And I know that a lot of times you don't like the ADOT or the YAC's necessarily not sustainable, but what he does, like defenses have to pay attention to Rice underneath. I'm not sure with what Travis Kelce's shown the last year and a half that he's going to draw that much attention underneath. But if you have both Worthy and Rice, and then like let's not forget, even if Marquise Brown can just get back to being 80% of what he used to be, like that trio.
Yeah, it's good. All right, so we all think it's there. He's just a tough one because you could get such a great discount on him, but if Mahomes performs like he has in each of the last 2 years, then you're overdrafting him.
I think we've seen the same thing. We saw the same thing, though, with both Brady and Rodgers. When you're a quarterback in the NFL for 20 seasons, you're probably not going to give 20 elite fantasy seasons. Like Brady had a couple of years. I think we had like 3 different times where we thought Brady was washed. Rodgers had a couple of terrible years and then won an MVP. Like this, there's the ebb and flow of an NFL career, and especially at this position when the career is so long. At Mahomes' age, there's no reason to think that like there's any reason he can't be that guy again. We had a Pops in the chat had a good point. He said the defense almost has to take a step back for him to be as good as he could be.
I have numbers on that actually. His last 7 seasons, this is where the Chiefs defense has ranked in scoring. 24th. This is Mahomes' first year as a starter, his best year. 24th, then 7th, then 11th, which I think was another one of Mahomes' like huge seasons.
Right. Yep.
8th, then 16th, which was another one of Mahomes' huge seasons. That was the year with Juju, actually, the first year without Tyreek. The last 2 years, they've been 2nd and 4th.
Yeah.
So you know what? The thing is, though, I almost feel like it's a coincidence because it hasn't really affected his pass attempts. And it hasn't led to more like running back rushing touchdowns or anything like that. To me, the big number is the air yards and the big plays. It's like I sort of agree with that take because the numbers are there. Like his best seasons have been the worst defensive seasons. Not that they've been bad necessarily, but they haven't been elite. But even with these 2 straight elite defensive seasons, he's still throwing the ball a ton. I just think he's missing that big play stuff, which is
there's that, and then there's also how many games have the Chiefs needed Mahomes to put up 28 points, 31 points? Like there were a bunch of games last year. They were 1-score wins for Kansas City. I don't remember them having to put up a ton of points in those games.
No.
Right.
All right. So, let's go to our last topic here.
It's almost like just to make your point with the air yards, they're operating kind of the same way. They're just not nearly as explosive. And that's been a huge part of why Mahomes' numbers have taken a dip.
Well, I think maybe you could make the case that because they're such a good defensive team, they don't have to take a lot of risks downfield.
That's another way.
You could, yeah. So maybe that is a great point that they need a little bit of a step back on defense.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a tight end outside the top 3? The top 3 being Bowers, McBride, and I thought for you it was Kittle. Is it Kittle?
Kittle is 3 for me.
Okay. Is there a tight end outside the top 3 that even has a chance to be elite? Heath, what do you think?
Yeah. There's you might need to qualify elite, but 15 fantasy points per game is elite.
Yeah, I'd say so.
At this position, that's 50% better than tight end 8 generally. So that seems like a pretty. I would not be surprised if Sam Laporta has one of those seasons again. I'm not projecting it right now, but it's possible. I could see TJ Hawkinson having one of those seasons again. I could see. I wouldn't be if you look at what Travis Kelce did last year, and if Patrick Mahomes had just thrown a bunch of touchdown passes, he had 3 touchdown catches last year and scored 12 fantasy points per game. So what if Travis Kelce just scores more touchdowns? I think there's still a handful of guys that could reach that 15 fantasy point per game range.
And Kittle, Bowers, and McBride were the only 3 to do that last year. Jonnu Smith and David Njoku averaged about 13.2. So did Taysom Hill, actually, in PPR. Philip Bryan in our chat says TJ Warren. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, because I think the rookie tight ends have a real chance to be very good. I don't know about 15, but
Tyler Warren.
Tyler Warren. Yes, Tyler Warren out of Penn State. TJ Warren was a basketball player, right?
He played for the Suns, I think.
Out of Texas.
Yeah.
I remember March Madness when I was in college. Maybe I'm thinking PJ Tucker. Where did TJ Warren go? PJ Tucker definitely went to Texas. I don't remember where TJ Warren went.
Warren definitely went to Texas.
Okay.
NC State.
Oh, he went to NC State? Okay. Yeah, PJ Tucker was the guy I was thinking of. But anyway, Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland, I Love Arroyo. I think these guys are going to have some more upside than most of the tight ends and most of the veteran tight ends. I don't know how you feel about that, Dave.
It's totally going to depend on where they end up. I saw a mock draft where Tyler, don't call me TJ Warren, went to the Jets. That's a top 10 pick. And if he goes there, I don't like his chances just because of Justin Fields at quarterback and the expected, uptick in rush attempts that the Jets will probably have with Justin Fields under center. But if he goes to an offense where they're kind of light on targets and they're expected to throw a lot, then sure. Then one or both of those guys could end up being potentially good enough to get close to 15 PPR points per game. Could New Orleans be one of those teams?
Maybe. I liked it. I mean, this is a good tight end class.
It's a I'm not poo-pooing the tight end class at all. It's a very good tight end class. It would have to be a really great landing spot for me to believe that one of these guys could actually get in the 15 fantasy point per game range.
I would say that there's no chance that either of them go in the top 6. The Jets are 7th. Would Carolina do it at 8? That might not be such a bad spot. A rookie could be the top target getter for the Panthers this year there. So that wouldn't be bad. Saints are 9. Chicago won't at 10. San Francisco won't at 11. Dallas, that would be kind of gross if they took one of these tight ends at 12. Miami at 13.
Oh, why? For fantasy? I don't think it would be gross.
Maybe. I mean, it just depends on what it would mean for others. I guess you're right that Dallas would be okay for that.
About it.
Could Miami be someone just taking over the Jonnu Smith role? Could that be exciting? I would say so. Indianapolis at 14. We know about their quarterbacks.
No.
I would say after that, you'd be hard pressed to find a spot where A, it makes sense, and B, they'd be great, like really great. Maybe some of those teams deep into the 20s.
It's interesting because I don't know that we felt that the Raiders they traded Adams, so that changed things. But if you're a great player,
before that, we saw good target volume for Bowers.
Yeah,
and I don't think we have I don't think we should be comparing rookie tight ends to Brock Bowers, probably.
That was my question. How much worse is Warren than Bowers? Warren's amazing.
Warren as a 25-year-old is as good as Bowers as a 19-year-old.
Okay.
Maybe he's 24. I apologize.
Father Time says he'll be 25 someday.
If you guys want to get hyped about Elijah Arroyo, find the clip of him chasing down a Virginia Tech cornerback who intercepted Cam Ward. It is a DK Metcalf moment from a tight end.
So you just really don't like Harold Fannin?
Fannin is the one that I haven't over the weekend. I watched those 3 tight ends: Warren, Loveland, and Arroyo. I haven't gotten to Fannin yet, but he led the country in catches for tight ends. Very impressive. I think Arroyo had 35 catches or something. Not a lot.
It wasn't a lot.
I've got Fannin ahead of Arroyo right now.
He led the country in yards per catch. Tight ends. Fannin, I'm not there yet on. I don't know enough yet about him.
For what it's worth, Arroyo made heroic plays in practice every day at the Senior Bowl. Fannin might have made one nice play on the last day of practice. It was just a 3-day span. You can't judge a guy based on that. But, when a tight end like Arroyo doesn't have a ton of catches in his last year in college, and then he goes to an all-star game and practice and just dominates the coverage there, then you're going to take notice. That kid can play. Never mind big. The jacket I'm wearing.
He's big and he's big and he runs fast. Like Loveland's kind of skinny, right? I mean, doesn't really look like a tight end. He had a pretty low ADOT. Anyway, we'll talk about this. I think we're doing it this week. Which positions are we talking about this week, Thomas? We got a couple of NFL draft shows coming up with Chris Trapasso. I'm pretty sure we're talking about tight ends this week, so I'm looking forward to that. I would like to know how Thomas is feeling about the game tonight, if he's willing to show his face in public. He's not super willing right now.
This is when you go to cut to a break to try and throw Thomas off his game.
We are talking about wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends this week. We're going to save running backs, which is super deep, for next week. But I think the Gators are going to win fairly easily tonight. I don't know how you guys feel.
I mean,
you heard what I said already before the tournament. You heard what I told you.
What'd you say? That
the Gators were awesome.
Did you do that yourself, or did you use AI for that?
No. I that was actually something that my eyeballs told me, and not AI.
They are awesome.
AI told me to take Houston, so no. I'm rooting. Cover your ears, Adam. I'm rooting for the Gators.
What?
Yeah.
Do you have money involved here?
None. Zero.
And you're rooting for the Gators? Take your freaking jacket off right now.
I'm rooting for the Florida Gators. I want to see them complete the run. I think they've got the.
I love Elijah Martin. Like, it's that FAU connection that really made it happen for Florida this year. Okay. But I just think Houston's already crashed the party. Like, it was supposed to be Florida and Duke. They are the 2 best teams, but you can't discount how hard Houston plays and their defensive intensity. And we'll just see how Florida responds to that.
That's what I noticed about Florida too, though. Yep. I love that about college basketball. These kids, they play very hard. It's been a good tournament. It's been fun. It's Saturday. I didn't watch a second,
but fun.
But the Florida Auburn game was great, and obviously the Duke game was insane finish. Bad foul call there on Cooper Flag. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We will talk to you on Wednesday with some NFL draft talk, get you acquainted with these prospects. But they've been doing that on FFT Dynasty for a while now, so you can check out those episodes.
We've got Jacob Gibbs coming on tomorrow to talk about RB 7 through 12 and favorite sleepers.
That's going to be a good primer for me for our RB shows next week. All right. See you later, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow or Wednesday.